Thanks for joining me. I'm Scott Ryan. People are obviously fed up with the Republican Party. I'm fed up with political parties in general. I don't even want a third party. I'd like to see a movement of millions of people around the country just leave the Republican Party. I'll go with it. I'll go along with it. And we just don't form a new party. We just stick together. This is the 21st century. We are already doing all the things that parties do. The parties are actually a liability because it makes it easier for us to be painted into a box and typecast by the underhanded media. I mean, the Tea Parties happened instantaneously. I'll never forget watching Rick Santelli on the floor of the CBOE back in 2007. I was watching in my office in the financial world and seeing that live and how inspiring that was and how it was like the shot fired around the world. And organically, as he talked about having a Tea Party there in Chicago, organically people ran with it. Some leaders in cities all around the country put it together. Nobody was coordinating with each other. It just happened because that is the will of man, to be free and to fight tyranny. None of us went, or at least most of us, I can't speak for everybody, but I sure didn't go to the Tea Parties I went to with any intention of joining a political party or a organization of any kind. I gave out my email there so I could be on email lists, which I'm still on, which is an effective means of communication. But that is all we need to do. We're our worst enemy. We're empowering these power-hungry egomaniacs who make a living off of us. The Karl Roves, the Bill Kristols, the Priebus. I'd like to see just millions of people. I wish the leading talk radio hosts would orchestrate something like Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, my favorite of all talk show hosts, one of my favorite Americans. I'd like to see a nationwide orchestration where we just all withdraw our membership of the Republican Party, just like that. And they're powerless overnight, instantaneously. We are the majority. Somehow we've allowed ourselves to be hijacked decade after decade. I don't know why we can't extricate ourselves from this juggernaut, but I don't care anymore. Our founding fathers hated political parties, but it was a necessary evil that happened naturally because, let's face it, they didn't have the same communicative abilities. Technology wasn't quite the same back then as what it is now. Instantaneously, groups form overnight. Candidates can be discovered on the internet without any money. We give directly to the candidates. They just grow organically, virally, as the saying goes. If the cream will rise, and people will get turned on to good ideas and people who are implementing good ideas and are providing effective services. We do not need another party so that we can easily be typecast and demonized by the media. Let's just be Americans. Let's stick together. I mean, if we had we don't have to have a party per se, but if some of the leading talk show hosts, let's say some leaders in talk radio like Levin and Limbaugh and Glenn Beck, and maybe if some of the leading internet, like Breitbart would have been obviously a great person to be on this panel, but Chris Ruddy, an outstanding conservative pioneer in the internet, Jim Robinson at freerepublic.com. But if some of the leaders in those mediums were just to get together and sort of organize, but not be a party, we don't need a structure. We don't need this anymore. Let's just be Americans, like Americans under the Articles of Confederation, who really were loath to adopt the Constitution. They didn't want that structure. They didn't want to make this power-hungry beast, this Leviathan that they did create. Their worst fears came true when they created this federal government. If there's one thing that we know, that is the nature for bureaucracies to continue to grow. Why don't we just use the communicative technology that we have, use the passion that we have, the patriotism that we have, the longing for freedom, the hate for evil, the disgust for tyranny. Let's just channel that. It will happen organically. It will happen naturally. We do not need these GOP swindlers anymore. I just read today that the GOP establishment are actually removing conservatives from key committees in Congress. Punishment. This is disgusting. It has got to stop. We are being sabotaged. We have been bamboozled long enough. If we didn't have a party, then we wouldn't have these powerful rhinos who have their power just by virtue of being elected too damn many times. They have more power than other elected representatives from other states just because they've been there longer. That is not what the Founding Fathers wanted. This is tyranny within the GOP. We need to abolish this damn thing once and for all. And you talk about, I hear people talking about how John Boehner's going to cave in. It's just a matter of time. The GOP are going to fold like a lawn chair. And that's true. When Obama came out with this outlandish offer to spend trillions more dollars in debt and another stimulus package, it was so outlandish, it was obvious what he was doing. I felt like I was in a used car dealership. I mean, it was perfect. The writing was on the wall. And what you can expect is, of course, Boehner's going to cave. But what they did is they, just like a car dealer might make the price an outrageously high number, they're going to play a game with you where you go in with the sales manager, or you go and sit down with him, and then he's going to talk back and forth with the sales manager. He's going to go in and smoke a cigarette, drink a cup of coffee, come back, and he's going to do that several times, going back and forth, and he might splash some water on his face and act like he's sweating it out for you. That's what Boehner's going to do. It's almost like they're in collusion. I mean, I swear, it's like Barack Obama came out deliberately with this crazy number. They might have planned this charade all in advance. And so Boehner comes out with his number, which is half. And either plan, they're both too much. So either way, the country's going to be bankrupt. We're already bankrupt. So they meet halfway. And somewhere in between those phony meetings being conducted with the phony sales manager, Obama's going to come down, Boehner's going to come up, and they're going to meet at some outrageous number. But just by asking for something 10 times more outrageous, it looks like, oh, well, we came out with a compromise. It doesn't matter. We are bankrupt. Neither party, neither side has propounded a solution that will prevent the inevitable. It's no different than what Bernie Madoff did. If Bernie Madoff had not been caught eventually by a whistleblower, I mean, it took a long time. The SEC attorneys were busy watching porn all day long, so even though people were trying to blow the whistle for years before he was finally caught, eventually he got caught. Nevertheless, if Bernie Madoff were still operating that Ponzi today, it would still be running today. If it weren't for the whistleblower, it would appear as healthy today as it was several years ago when he got nailed. That Ponzi scheme could run as long as the people believed in it, because there wouldn't have been the sudden panic that caused the massive exodus that basically called the bluff. Because he had a great reputation, he had an amazing racket going, he was very compelling, he was one of the ultimate swindlers aside from Barack Obama and Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. He had it down to a science. And to this day, I mean, all of those years, he enjoyed the reputation. New money kept coming in. New money would be coming in today. But there would still be nothing, there would not be more than a fraction in that fund right now to pay everybody off when they were called on it. And that's where the United States government is right now. That's the state of the U.S. Treasury. We are so far off. Higher interest rates, a spike in interest rates will sink us. We are so far off. It'll just be the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. It's inevitable. We are bankrupt. Delusional people have not accepted it yet. They don't want to accept it. But eventually, the music stops. Thank you for joining me. I'm Scott Ryan.